Okay. All right, so welcome back. So today, um, in chapter 11, we got to take a look at how to utilize an automated payroll service that Intuit offers us. All right, but let's say we don't need or we don't want to use an automated service. It's always recommended to because they're the professionals. They do this for a reason, and the cost to doing manual payroll or automated payroll, excuse me, it's a lot, but if you're going to have to pay somebody to calculate all of the payroll manually, if you weigh out the options, your best cost benefit would be to just go ahead and outsource or use Intuit. Especially when you realize how many people are involved. Oops, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Especially when how many people are involved, especially your employees, and how every single employee has a different, number of withholdings. They are different wages, different salary bases, right? So every person's going to have a different type of calculations. All right. So if you're going to be able to pay somebody to do it and you do it manually, then go ahead and do it. But they always say the best way to try to perfect or at least get the perfect amount right or get it correctly is to outsource or use the Intuit paid role services. So here I opened up chapter 10 again because that way I don't have to turn off the payroll for chapter 11. So in this case, we this is from a continuation from chapter 10, right? We already set up the employees, we set up everybody's information, we set up all our liabilities, we set up who we're going to pay, and now this is how we conduct actual manual payroll. So first things first is, if you remember, if we were to click on one of these buttons, it's going to tell us to go ahead and sign up for a payroll services. But in this case, if you don't want to use a payroll services, right, you can enter it in manually. So in order to do that, you're going to have to go to File, go to Edit, and you're going to go to Preferences. And then you're going to go ahead and go find Payroll and, no, that's the wrong one. We're going to go to Payroll and Employees. We're going to go to Company. And we're going to check mark this one, that we want to operate desktop payroll QuickBooks, right? We want full payroll, okay? Now, that doesn't mean you're going to subscribe to a payroll service. This is just us doing it manually, right? If you want to, you can use an online payroll, or you can actually sign up for one to automatically do it for us. But in this case, this is how you activate the manual section. So by clicking on full payroll and I click OK, now what's going to happen is, let's say payday is here. And I go ahead and click my pay employees. Now, of course, I don't have a payroll center, so it's going to take me directly to this window right here. Okay, so that was a slight difference, okay? Let's go ahead and, before we do that, let's go ahead and exit out of that real quick and go to my employee center. So in this case, I still don't have my employee, my payroll center, right? So I don't have the pay my employees option here. The only option is my home page or my menu bar. So in this case, I don't have it, so I can't go that way. So I would have to actually manually do it by clicking on the pay employees, and it's going to pop up this window. All right, so that's the difference between the two. All right, same thing here. We're going to actually go ahead and calculate Miss Katie's, payroll. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to go ahead and set it as the same one as before, but it's going to be slightly different just because, we're going to be using the 2021 table. But I'm going to go ahead and set it just exactly like before, right? We're going to have it for December 2019. Whoops, I went too far. We're going to set it for December, the end of the period was December 15, and we're going to make the payment available for December 16th, the day right after the payroll has been processed. So we'll make the check available on the 16th. Okay? Making sure that we have checking as our option available, and same thing here, the 17th. Now notice this, I have both Katie and I have Michael on here. Michael, I haven't finished filling out his form yet, so I'm only going to pay for Katie. We're only going to make a payment for only Katie. So by selecting Katie, right, and then of course we're using the check stock. Okay, so we're only going to pay Katie. So let's go ahead and click on Katie's name. Same window pops up, but notice this is the difference. We have how much she's going to make, which is the salary of the $2,500, okay? And we know she's on the semi-monthly. And from our information, right, the information that we got from the W-2 form or W-4 form is going to be very important here. This is where we're going to actually have to manually enter in everything. And that's why it's called manual payroll. We're going to have to do our calculations manually. All right? And in this case, the rate that I'm going to be putting for the deduction again is going to be negative 4%. Just like what we saw in the example, right? We signed up that she's going to pay 4% of her paycheck. All right? And we also said that we're going to match them 2%. Okay? So again, when us putting these information here, it's now populating down here saying, okay, if she's gonna do 4% of her paycheck, which should be $100. In this case, it just says $4. Okay, so in this case, we actually have to. It says rate. I don't know why it says that. Let me see, negative 4%. Let me see if that will work.
Yep.
There you go. Okay, so I need to put the percentage mark in there. So 2%. And then that should, there you go. And of course, $100 to Medicare. So then we have this little table here that it's going to, again, be the 2,500 minus the 100 minus the 100 here. Okay, and remember, when we place this information in there, we said that it's going to be deducted from the paycheck after taxes. Mm-hmm. So make sure that you remember everything that you've signed up her for. Okay? So then now we have to figure out what the medical in here the medical employment advance one we don't use. It's not going to be one of them, and we're not going to calculate California just because I don't live in California anymore. I don't really know California tax, so I'm going to leave those two blank. Okay? So the only three things that we're going to be solving for is going to be the federal income tax withholdings, the Social Security, and the Medicare. Okay? The FICA, the FICA Contribution Act. So first things first is, how do we determine our federal income tax withholdings? So because we're in 2019 in our books, we're supposed to be doing for the year 2019. I'm going to assume that she used the 2019, but I'm using the 2021 tax table. So that will be a slight difference there.
Okay.
However, how to calculate it is you're going to take your gross wages, right? You're going to figure out what did she write down on her W-4 form. She wrote that she has 2 allowances or 2 withholdings, right? So what you're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a look at our table here. So this is to do manual payroll for W-4 forms that are 2019 and earlier, okay? So here it tells us that one withholding, right, depending on which pay period she belongs to, right? In this case, her pay period is semi-monthly, right? We're paying her twice a month. So that means one withholding is going to be $179. So therefore, it's going to be $179. And because she claimed 2 allowances, right? It could be her 2 kids or whatever it is. We're going to have to multiply the 2. Now, these tax withholdings are going to be taken off before taxes. Always before taxes in this case. When we move on to 2020, you're going to actually find out it's after taxes, which is really weird. So here I'm going to determine what is going to be her new adjusted amount after taking those withholdings out. So in this case, we're taking out $358 because she claimed 2 withholdings. So that means she's subject to $2,142 worth of tax. That's the amount that's taxable. Okay? So now that we have that table there, let's go ahead and solve for her federal income tax withholdings. So you'll need to know what percentage or bracket she belongs to. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and take my amount. So we know that the amount that's taxable is going to be for the 2,142, right? So now we got to find the exact bracket she belongs to. All right, and it's going to be based on her marital status and how often you pay the person. So in this case, my first table is my weekly table, so I can skip that table. My second one is my bi-weekly. I can skip that one too. Here is my semi-monthly table. She's filing as married, okay? So we have to be on the left side. Now let's go ahead and take a look at which bracket she belongs to. She made $2,142. So therefore, we got to find which bracket she belongs to. So she's definitely made more than 1,338. However, she did make less than 3,885. Right? This is the amount that we're looking at after we took the withholdings out. Mm-hmm. So in this case, she falls in between this bracket right here, or this percentage bracket. So that means the government is going to automatically charge them $83 automatically. Okay? The government allows you to keep $1,338 for your own personal reasons. Right? Anything extra is going to be taxed at 12%. That's how you read this table. Okay? All right. So it's a little, okay. So now that we understand that rule, so here is how we calculate it, right? If the government's going to allow me to keep the $1,338, okay, I'm going to go ahead and subtract that right out from my actual pay account. So here, what was it? 1,338. I'm going to determine how much excess I have here. So I get $804 in excess.
Okay.
This amount here is going to be multiplied by the 12%. Because you need to multiply this, okay? Because it's in excess of what you've earned. So that means this money right here is going to be taxed at the 12%. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply that. So what is 804 times 12%? Gives you $96.48, right? And we're going to tack on how much the government's going to charge me, regardless of how much I make, which is the $83, right? The $83 is what you're subject to pay no matter what. So we're going to add $83 to get us a grand total of $179.48, which is closely exactly what we've solved for in the other one, right? And the other one, in the automated one, because that was 2019, of course, we're using 2021 numbers now. It's going to be slightly different. So it was roughly $173. Right here, it's roughly $179.48. So here, that's where we can place it in our QuickBooks, that my total number of federal tax income withholdings is going to be negative $173.48. All right? Okay. And that's going to be taken away from your paycheck. So notice this. I put a negative 173. Oh, I think it's 178. My bad. Or 79. 179.48. Let me double check that. 179.48. Yes, 179.48. Okay? All right, so that's what we calculate for her federal income tax withholdings. Now the next section is going to be figuring out what Social Security is. So Social Security and Medicare, they have a flat rate. And it's going to be based on the total amount of earnings that they made, okay? Without deducting that withholding. So she made a total of gross wages of 2,500. So that's what you're going to type here. It's going to be 2,500, and you're going to multiply it, because for Social Security, it's going to be 1.45%. So in this case, I'm going to put a negative, because we need to make it subtractable. So it's going to be negative 0.0145, which is 1.45%, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and enter. So that means she's going to be deducted $36.25.
Okay.
All right. Same thing with Social Security. I'm sorry, I did the wrong one. This one's supposed to be down here. So let me go ahead and redo that again. So all right, so that's that. Social Security is 6.2%. So these are numbers that when you do payroll, those are the numbers that you should double check and confirm. And it's been 6.2 for Social Security for the longest time, and it's always been 1.45% for the longest time. It has not changed since. All right.
Okay.
So here's 22. So it's going to be based on the amount that she grossly earned, her total gross earnings, multiply by the negative 0.062, because it's 6.2%. So once we do that, then we can go ahead and it will quick math and calculate for me that she owes $155 to Social Security. All right. Again, I don't know what the California percentage taxes are, so I'm going to leave those be. And that means she's going to walk away with $1,929, which is closely related, right? Because we didn't subtract the California or the disability, because I don't know what percentages those are. Okay, so now that we have that, that's how you do the manual payroll for just her. Now we have to figure out what it is on our side, okay, down right here below. So of course the match 401k, right, just because we placed it right here, it's going to be 2%. So here it's automatically going to say that I have to pay $50, all right? California unemployment training, I don't know what that is, so I'm just going to leave that one blank. Social Security, again, because it's the same number, right? We have to match them 100%. In this case, you could go ahead and just type it in. So in this case, the Social Security that she's paying is going to be $155 even. And then her Medicare is going to be for the $36. Okay, so $36.25, all right? And then lastly, the federal unemployment. Now, there are a lot of states, or I'm sorry, in this case, the federal, it can depend on how much you are going to be, how much employees you have, how much you earn, and how big your company is. So in this case, most cases, your percentage can range from anywhere from 0.5% all the way to 6%. And in the payroll class that I teach, I just want to keep it sweet and simple. I'm going to say that it is 6%. Okay? So that means you're going to take your total gross earnings of Katie, and you're going to multiply that by 0.06. Okay? Because it's 6%. And therefore, the total amount of taxes that I have to pay for her for the unemployment, okay? So that's something you need to know. The person does not pay into their own unemployment. The company is responsible to pay for the unemployment. And for having her as an employee, we have to pay $150 per paycheck that she does. Okay? And there you go. That's my calculations for how much taxes I will be paying. All right? Once everything looks good, I can go ahead and click Save and Close. And everything else moving on forth is going to be identical. You click on continue, you click on that next button, and now it says you need to print some checks. So we'll print the check, select it's Katie, and click OK. We're going to select voucher style. And in this case, I'm going to actually sign the checks itself, all right, or whoever. And I'm going to click print, of course, and it's printing, so I need to save this. So in this case, I'm going to save this as manual PR Katie, and I'm going to save it in that folder. Okay, and then I'm going to close this window because it's just telling me what I want to do next. And that's it. That's the difference on how to do it manually. And of course, that's how you do it. That's how you do the manual payroll.
That's per employee, though.
Yeah, that's for the employees. Yeah.
No, I'm talking that's per employee. You have to set it up like that.
Yes. Because so remember when we went through the whole interview, you had to set up everything. So in this case, when you're doing it manually, and that's why it's so laborly intensive, because you have to pull up all their information, right? I made a spreadsheet because in QuickBooks, you can't just sit there and put a whole bunch of calculations in there, right? It's going to be messy. So you have to set it up this way, especially when you're dealing with federal income tax withholdings. There's rules and regulations that you need to do. So in this case, we need to pull up how much she earned. What are the total number of withholdings she took? And then if she claimed any, then you have to deduct it. Then from there, you have to check out the table to see what bracket she belongs to. And in this case, she falls in the married section under the semi-annual or semi-monthly payroll under the 12%. So remember, look at that table, right? There's a total of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 tables that you have to look at. And each one are broken down by their marital status and by their pay period. So we took them semi-monthly, we made sure that she's married, and then so we use this table here. For Mike, we would have to go to semi-monthly, we have to go to single, and we would have to figure out what his bracket belongs here. So every person is different, and again, that's why it's very useful to download the PDF version of this, because if you are doing manual payroll, you need to be able to have this readily available to calculate each individual person's paycheck. Okay? Some people will claim withholding, some people will not. Some are married, some are not. Some can be claimed as a head of household, but in this case, we don't have a head of household. That's considered considered withholding. So you're gonna have to look at those tables. So it's a little more complicated, but once you find the bracket and you are able to calculate it right, then that's how you do it. And again, that's usually what I teach in the accounting class, which you're unable to do. So again,
Do you have to do that monthly for everybody, or is that? I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Do you have to do that monthly for everyone? For per paycheck. I should say per pay period.
Absolutely. So what if that's why for most cases, right? If you are a company that is doing a bi-weekly, you have to do it every week.
Oh my.
Because your employees, right? You always want to make sure that you usually the pay period is from like Monday to Sunday, right? For 2 weeks, right? So that means the HR person, they have to collect all that information and process everybody's payroll either between the next pay period month or when the next pay period starts, right? And then they allow them to give them times, right? When do you want the check to be claimed? Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday? Friday gives them 4 days to process the payroll, right? Wednesday only gives them maybe 1 or 2 days to process the payroll. So it really depends on the size of your company too. So think about it. That's why it's so labor intensive that it just makes more sense if you just go ahead and just have it done, either outsource it or have a payroll service do it for you.
really makes sense. Like back in the old days, in the 80s and 90s, they would say nothing comes in on payroll day.
Absolutely, exactly.
Your 8 hours, that's all they'd be working on.
Exactly. So yeah, usually paydays, and then think about it. If you are on the standpoint of dealing with the people who have to do it every day or do a paycheck every day, imagine that. How much labor intensive would that be? You have to make sure that you know who does what, and that's why having a spreadsheet or having a guideline to be able to help you calculate these things is very useful. And there's resources online that you can check out if you are interested in the payroll section. But that's what I normally teach for payroll is this is how you do it. This is how you calculate manual payroll. And that's how you have to apply it to into QuickBooks if you're doing manual payroll. Okay. And again, as I pulled up my checking account, there it is, my paycheck for Katie Reynolds. All right.
Yep.
Same thing here too. If I want to make a payment to my liabilities, let's say, because just like before, right? I need to make a payment to my liabilities. I could go ahead and click pay liabilities. And then it gives you this window saying, well, which one you want to pay for? You want to make a custom payroll for liabilities, or do you want to what you want to look at? And in this case, I'm looking at the one for December 2019, right? Because in this case, I've only processed one paycheck, and that is starting December 1st through December 31st. Okay, and then I'm gonna click OK, and then it's gonna pull up the information for me on what I have to pay. So again, same thing here. You're going to click on which one you want to pay. And again, at the top, it's going to give you what the information that you're going to pay, who you're going to pay, etc., etc. So again, pretty straightforward. Again, but that's only if you're planning to use QuickBooks and you're planning to use it as a manual payroll. Okay.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. So, and then when you do manual paying your liabilities, because you've set it up prior to that, then all the calculations you enter, all you have to do is just write the check. Yeah. At that point, all you have to do is just write the check.
Yeah, you're better off to go that way if you've got anything more than 5 employees. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, exactly. So, even sometimes if you don't have the time to do it, right? Again, each individual person, right? Someone could be married, someone could claim 5 withholdings, somebody could be single and not claim anything. Those ones are the easiest ones because you just tax them at the highest one. Mm-hmm. Right? You don't need to calculate anything further. If there's 000, then you take their amount, you find the bracket they belong to, and boom, they're done. But then again, if you have deductions, so again, for Katie, right? Katie, we had to take out deductions for her 401k plan. We also have to take money away from for her things like that, right? But again, those because we made it after tax, it doesn't affect this number here because this is before tax. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that you should also know too, is that most commonly you are going to calculate all those extra deductions, all those extra benefits will typically happen after you've been taxed. So there's a lot of rules and regulations, especially when you're dealing with payroll, and it's it can be labor intensive if you have a lot of employees, especially if you're especially if you're on some type of form of payment or like payroll period that may not give you enough room to process your checks as fast and quickly. So for example, if I'm using manual payroll and I pay my employees every week, well then best be bet that you're going to probably spend a good chunk of your hours, like maybe once or twice that week, to just dedicate to just paying your employees. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's why it's always best to just outsource. It's easier to just do it that way, so you don't have to calculate everything manually and have to figure out all those numbers. Okay. So, any questions on how to do manual payroll?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, it's pretty straightforward, and that's how you do it. And then, yep. Okay. So that concludes our lesson for today. There's nothing else